from government communication, they claim they are successful, but some other discussion indicate that it's not all that successful. But to a large extent, what they are looking for, they have achieved it. So they can claim that they are successful.
To a large extent,
yeah,
what they were looking for, they have achieved.
Yeah. So the minister said that they have saved about 61 billion. Of course, I say that is not a saving. That is the respite that you receive, because it's not at those you set aside that amount of money. You were looking for some respite in the debt testing program. So that is the sacrifice that the people who were holding the bond gave you. And that should not amount to any savings that you have made.
In fact, there are those who have expressed worry about the language the government is using. Successful. We have saved. They say, when you say this, you forget the number of lives, that the amount of sacrifice people have to make, and the impact of that sacrifice on their livelihoods when you use those kinds of upbeat language. Do you agree?
Well, what I do know is that from financial point of view, what government was looking for is to convince people to sacrifice. And they are going to sacrifice to a certain team.
Radio Gold.
So what they sacrifice is equal to what the government may be looking for.
Gold.
And for me, I just don't want us to call it savings. I want to call it the sacrifice that the people have made. That is how I want to call it. So if people are concerned about the language, I think it is right. But I just want to leave it where I explain it to.
And now they are going on the Eurobond market. I'm sure you've looked through the documents, what they are submitting. What are your views?
Well, the first thing, from principal point of view, all investors into your bonds should be classified as investors. So therefore, if domestic bondholders receive haircuts, then it is also important for the external ones to also receive the haircut, so that the entire thing is based on fairness.
Equal treatment of all investors.
Yes. So that is one. But unlike the domestic bondholders, the characteristics of these external bondholders is different. Number one, you don't have control over them. You can't work with regulatory agencies and then do it in a way of force, but come to the public and say that it is voluntary. You can't do that to work within a short period of time and come out that you have achieved what you want to get. They must be convinced that indeed you needed that support before they agree, and even the quantum you are looking for, they have to assess. The fact that you cannot pay your debt does not mean that you are not raising revenue. You are announcing every day how much revenue you are getting. And let us remember that every borrowing by the state is borrowed against future revenue. Therefore, if you are getting that revenue, the idea is that you need to pay from that future revenue. So if you're making revenue, but you claim that you have some difficulties, they need to assess and see whether indeed you are not in position to pay. Then they also look at what you are imposing on them to see whether they want to sacrifice that for you. And again, they will also look at the new terms that you are imposing. That if they find the present value of the new terms that you are imposing, is this something that they need to sacrifice or not? So these things will come. And so the government should not think that this is the gap that I have and I want to close that gap and impose that on them. It has to go through negotiation. They have to look at the legal ramification of all these things before they make a comment. And that is the reason why every time the finance minister comes to us that we are close to a deal, but it never comes through. And even this one that he mentioned in Morocco, it's as though a deal was imminent, only to realize that some of them are not happy about it, and we saw that reflecting in the performance of the bond as soon as he made that announcement. We have now seen disintegration or division in the bondholders or those who are holding our debt. We have the bilateral, we have the commercial. It seems the bilateral seem to be acceding to the general idea, principle of debt restructuring. But we have not heard so much from the commercial ones. And what we have also known is that the commercial debts which are tradable have moved from one hand to another. So the new holders of the bonds have their own mind. And then they must be convinced before they come on board. And 40% seem to be on the high side for the investors. So these are the complex nature of the external debt restructuring proposal that the government is putting across.
And first, let me ask about the suggestion that we're looking at 30 to 40% haircut. Is that to suggest that they will be losing 30 to 40% of their investment? Exactly what does that mean?
I think the proposal is that they will be sacrificing 40% of their principal, and then 5% on the interest. So that is the proposal.
Well, if that is the proposal, and the report from Bloomberg is that, and we're just talking about it, that our bonds were, as a result, underperforming. You said it means they were unhappy with the proposal that's on the table. How have they reacted that has led to that performance? Does that mean that they are dumping the bonds? What are they doing?
You see, the investors' sentiment is reflected in the performance of the bond. So if they are upbeat about the statement, then the bond will be priced well. But as it is now, that is not the case. That's the reaction. I don't know how the bond is performing from now after the announcement, because we have announcement effect, what people call signaling effect. So people will react instantaneously when they hear the information. When the information is imbibed, it's likely the bond will take their normal course. But that is significant because that is a reaction.
Ghana's gold. Radio gold.
What signal should those who are managing this process, our finance minister and those involved, be taking from this? Is that telling them that, please, review your offer?
I think so. Because, as I said, even some of the bondholders have changed hands. And then they bought the bonds with some expectation. So if what you are proposing does not meet the expectation and does not meet the minimum that they want to achieve at the end of the day, then you need to come back with another proposal. That is what it means.
What happens if this fails? If it's rejected altogether, nobody takes up the offer.
Bear in mind that bond is an agreement. It's a contract.
Radio Gold.
Bond, we have a commitment to bonds that you need to pay. It's a debt. So bear in mind that if you cannot pay at a certain maturity level, the bondholder has the right to take any action at all, irrespective of you saying that you cannot pay. Because I told you from the beginning that when you are borrowing against your revenue stream. You may have financial difficulties, but you are taking your revenue. The revenue does not stop coming. So if I lend to you against you raising revenue, and the revenue is coming, I can take any decision that I want to take if you cannot pay me. So those things are there. But because we are in a market, people want to trade fairly towards one another. And that is why we are at this level. But when it happens that we are not able to reach a deal, then other issues will be triggered, and I will be seeing a different dimension of all these things. There are people who think that because we have declared difficulty of our economy, because we are under IMF program, that should be enough information to the bondholders outside to know that we are in difficulty. So if we say we cannot pay, they should accept. Some people even went the extreme to say that we say we cannot pay. So if you don't take what we are saying, then even the repayment going forward will be difficult. Those are not the conditions for the borrowing. So the bond is structured in such a way, and the agreement to the bond is such a way that it has no recourse to you not having the ability to pay it in time. So that is not something that you press to force the bondholders to accede to your position. The basis of debt exchange program is negotiation, is appealing to the creditors to accept your position. And that is what we need to be doing. So if you are thinking of those extreme issues, you will laugh at the wrong side of your mouth. And then again, as the bond is changing hands from the commercial point of view, I'm only hoping that the bond doesn't change hands into institutional investors that we classify as vulture investors. And if it goes into the vulture investors of funds, their characteristics is quite different. They will be taking certain actions that is not palatable to our economy. I think we can recall the situation of Argentina, the vulture funds with Argentina, the way they lay hand on their assets, even their ship on the sea and the rest. So those issues are there, but we have not reached that level. But the point I'm making is that the heart of debt exchange is negotiation, appealing, and then lobbying, so that your position will be accepted.
So the language that we heard during the DDP, where the finance minister virtually told everybody that, well, if you accept this offer, it's better for you. If you don't, well, I'll pay when I am in the position to pay. That language cannot work with the Eurobond market.
You can't blackmail the international market as you did for the domestic market. So the point is that, do you want to go to the international market again? Do you want the tune to be played back, that when you lend money to Ghana, a time will come, they will come and display certain character that is not in consonant with what will be happening in the market? So those issues are there. So you can't do that. You can't do that. If it is possible to do that, we would have achieved this in long time.
On the face of it, is that a good offer? 40% haircut on your principal, 5% on your coupon. Does it look good?
Well, you see, the debt exchange program is between the borrower and the lender. So it's the lender who should do an assessment and indicate that he's happy or is acceptable to him or her. So it's not a question of me saying that it is high or not high. On the face of it, it is high. Losing 40% of your principal is such a huge loss. You know? Then you are also coming to lose something on your interest. That is huge. But the decision as to whether that amount that they are going to lose is acceptable to the creditor lies with the creditor. And I say that some creditors have reacted and reflected in the performance of the bond momentarily. As to whether they will avail themselves to sign a deal based on that proposal is a matter that is left to them.
Let me conclude then by asking you, I know this is part of the conditions of the IMF deal, some of the things they have to do. But does that inure to us Ghanaians in any way? Because this morning we're just going through a story about the World Bank talking about poverty being on the increase. How would all this help? Are we getting any closer to any relief with all these arrangements working out?
Well, government is managing the economy on behalf of all of us. That is what the Constitution tells us in Article 36. So if that is the case, what are we looking for in debt exchange program? We want to reduce our interest burden. We want to reduce the volume of the debt. And we want to elongate the maturity period so that we can have some respite to plan and pay. So from that perspective, it is helpful to Ghanaians. It is helpful to the economy. But the debt that you are restructuring, what was it used for? Was it used to construct roads for Ghanaians? Was it used to construct hospitals for Ghanaians? Was it used to construct railways for Ghanaians? Was it used to build schools for Ghanaians? That is the question that will bring the real benefit to Ghanaians. So if you have borrowed all this money and we can't see what it was used for, remember there are two types of borrowing. Borrowing going to the debt, the international debt market, capital market, and getting some concessionary loans for projects. So what we are talking about, Eurobond, is not linked to certain projects that are going on in the country. So that is the question. So on the global level of reducing the interest burden and the rest, yes, Ghanaians benefit. But the value of the debt, that relates to what the debt was used for, is something that Ghanaians should ask themselves whether they have benefited from it or not.